This is the Morning Edition.
Well, some Oakland neighbors are fed up and demanding action after their streets have become a dumping ground. We'll have more on that coming up. And also, we're going to be touching on the debt ceiling and negotiations that are taking place right now. Plus, we're also going to be looking at the Dodgers. They're changing course after Major League backlash for a snub. The LA Dodgers making a big change. Here, their new message for the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence.
And all throughout the Bay Area this morning, we're starting to see some gustier conditions, especially off in our inland East Bay. I'm going to time that out and let you know how long that's expected to last for your morning commute coming up.
And as we take a look at the roadways right now, we are track and brake lights already at the Bay Bridge. You can see it is busy. We'll have a look at what you can expect here and some windy Bay Area bridges as well.
Let's take a look at our top stories now. Negotiations between House Republicans and the White House continue on as they have yet to come to an agreement to raise the country's debt ceiling. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy had said debt limits negotiations with President Joe Biden have been, quote, productive, but they still haven't solved the debt limit dilemma. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says it is highly likely that the U.S. will default on its debts as early as June 1st. If Congress fails to make a decision, a global financial crisis could occur, causing interest rates to skyrocket and Social Security checks to be put on hold. Medicaid funding could also be impacted. An update in the case of the Idaho murders. Brian Koberger, the 28-year-old man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students, chose to stand silent during his Monday court appearance. An Idaho judge entered not guilty pleas on behalf of Koberger. Now, this is not a typical method to be used while in court, but could be used as a broader defense strategy. The trial is expected to begin in October to announce if he will be facing the death penalty. Former President Trump is scheduled to appear by video today for his criminal case in Manhattan. The Republican presidential candidate is facing 34 felony counts of falsifying business records, for which he pled not guilty. A New York judge will explain to Trump about a court order that will prevent him from publicizing material released from the prosecution. Trump can only speak about info that was already public. Let's get a check on our weather now. First, meteorologist Jessica Birch. Jess, a lot of wind for me in the East Bay when I woke up this morning, and I could feel it across the Bay Bridge. Is that going to be sticking around much for today?
For our inland areas, absolutely. We woke up with gusty conditions, low pressures moving in from the north. The weather's changing today for us. Yesterday, we were in the 80s over there. Today, now we're sitting in the 60s. But I want to start off with a different live look. This is a live look from our Black Mountain cam. Mild conditions down in the Santa Clara Valley, but boy, is that marine layer just blanketing all of us right now. And it's moving relatively fast with those winds sweeping in from the north. This is what it looks like underneath it, just down in San Jose alone, where daytime highs today are expected to hit the low 70s. A lot cooler compared to yesterday, but not too cool to the point where you need a jacket necessarily. Maybe this morning as we're kicking off with 50s, but heading into this afternoon, you can definitely shed it in the Santa Clara Valley. Here's that marine layer in full force. It's going to start breaking apart as we head all the way into that 9 to noon hour. And at that point, we're left with sunnier skies this afternoon, partly cloudy conditions along our coastline. Here's a look at our wind gust right now. About 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts near Concord and Fairfield. Lighter conditions just at the mouth of the bay right now, so kind of a different setup for us this morning. The Golden Gate Bridge not looking too bad, but Gianna, I know you have a lot more on that.
Yeah, you know, there is a wind advisory actually also to adjust for the Golden Gate Bridge. That was issued by CHP overnight. We're tracking some brake lights too at the Bay Bridge, and that's where metering lights are on. And it is already a busy ride for anyone making that ride out of the East Bay, Emeryville over into San Francisco. A little gusty here as well. You can actually see that flag really blowing there off to the side. So just a heads up as you work your way through there. Finally, some good news for that ride along the Nimitz Freeway. We were tracking a pretty serious crash southbound 880 blocking the left lane with injuries. That's now cleared. You can see both directions near the Coliseum moving at the limit. No delays here. So if you're headed towards the Bay Bridge on the northbound side, everything is moving along pretty nicely there. Southbound 880, though, getting busy as you head into San Lorenzo. It is 6:04, and we have a new reaction this morning to a shakeup in baseball broadcasting. Oakland A's fans have heard Glenn Kuiper calling games for the last 2 decades. But now Kuiper is out of a job. He was let go by NBC Sports after a controversial moment on air before a May 5th game against the Royals. Kuiper apologized for it, but he was put on leave and then fired. He has released a statement calling it a mistake. He also stated that he is not a racist and described himself as an honest, caring, and respectful husband and father who would never utter a disparaging word about anybody. It read in part, "I wish the Oakland A's and NBC Sports would have taken into consideration my 20-year career, my solid reputation, integrity, and character. But in this current environment, traits like integrity and character are no longer considered. I will always have a hard time understanding how one mistake in a 20-year broadcasting career is cause for termination, but I know something better is in my future." Kuiper was suspended by the network earlier this month after he unfortunately mispronounced the word Negro during his excitement in talking about his visit to the Negro League Museum in Kansas City. What came out was a racial slur. He apologized thereafter and says he is grateful for all the support he's received, including from museum president Bob Kendrick.
It's a painful lesson for all of us. It also lets us know, again, in this crazy world, particularly this crazy world of social media that we live in now, a simple mistake can be compounded in such a way. And I think that's the thing that I found to be a little bit disheartening. Again, personally speaking, I did not want to see Glenn lose his job over this. It's sad that he will have to pick up the pieces now.
Well, Bob said that he felt the suspension was punishment enough, and he feels sorry for Glenn and his family. He also fully accepts his apology, and he said they had a wonderful time together at the museum earlier that day. Bob also mentioned that this firestorm came right after the museum announced that they would build a brand new facility and headquarters for Black baseball and social history. He said, hopefully we can all take away or learn something from this unfortunate incident. Amanda.
Well, also in baseball, Gianna, new developments in the baseball controversy in Los Angeles. The Dodgers are apologizing after re-inviting the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence to the team's upcoming Pride Night celebration. Now, all this comes after the team yanked the invitation to the LA chapter of the Sisters after pressure from Catholic organizations. The group says they have accepted that apology and plan to attend the event. The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence have often been scrutinized by Catholic groups for their parodied performances while dressed like nuns. Well, the group was initially invited to the Dodgers Pride Night celebration to receive a community award for their efforts to promote human rights, diversity, and spiritual enlightenment. The Sisters chapter here in San Francisco called the Dodgers' decision to have them back a big win.
I'm so happy. Am I a Dodger fan now? I don't know, but I'm still rooting for the Giants, though. Don't get it twisted.
Should. So we reached out to the Archdiocese of San Francisco to get their reaction. They pointed us to an earlier statement from Bill Donahue of the Catholic League. Part of it reads, quote, "By rewarding anti-Catholicism, the Dodgers have broken bread with the most despicable elements in American society today." And happening today, a memorial for celebrated drag icon Heklina is set to close part of the Castro starting at noon. The free event is set between Market and 18th Streets. The memorial program will take place at 8 p.m. and will be broadcasted on large screens along Castro Street. Heklina died unexpectedly on April 3rd in London. She gained widespread attention as a drag performer living in San Francisco and helped bolster the drag scene in the late 90s and early 2000s. Heklina was 55. Well, imagine living in a neighborhood filled with burnt-out, abandoned cars, many of them stolen and left behind to fall apart. That's what's happening in parts of Oakland. That's what you see right here. And a lot of people want to do something about this, but some are afraid of retaliation for trying to just clean up their neighborhoods. The city of Oakland tells our Julia Goodrich they've just started a new program to clean up this mess, but it is going to take some time. She met one man who is taking action now.
Is getting worse by the day. You can talk to some of the neighbors. We're here on Eads and Carey Street, and this is just one section. You see, look at this.
Community advocate Ken Houston walks us through parts of Oakland and says this is just one example of the abandoned cars and illegal dumping he sees on a daily basis. He says it's on the rise.
Right here. This is a newer car. Look at that Z71. That's new, right? You have this over here. These cars have not been here, but let me take you down here. These cars that are burned up, that's been here for years.
He says he's also very much aware of another issue, neighbors who walk in fear.
And here's a problem. The neighbors are hostage in their own homes because they're scared to report it because of retaliation. I mean, this young lady down here said, a person said, if you report me, I'm going to burn down your house with your kids in it. Don't get mad at me because I ringed it twice.
Neighbors like Gabby Napoli, who have lived here for years and have dealt with the blight right in her own front yard.
It's crazy. It's really sad.
Sad because even as she says she tries to secure her home, she's afraid of cars
And
being
they
set
will
on
be
fire.
Set on fire at night. There's been quite a few times that it happens at night and my house will shake. And we'll think it's an earthquake, and no, it's another vehicle on fire. And I will have to come out here, my husband, and water down the house, the yard.
So what happens is sometimes people will start living in them, like somebody over here.
Who's responsible for cleaning this up?
Union Pacific.
The railroad.
The railroad, Union Pacific Railroad. This is their responsibility. This is the railroad's responsibility. On the other side is Alameda County, and then the street side is the city.
So how do you all work together if everyone's in charge of different locations?
That's what we've been trying to do for years.
When we bought the house, this was just mountains of trash. From here all the way to where that fen is.
It gets depressing because if you lived in this neighborhood, wouldn't you be embarrassed for your friends or family to come by? Wouldn't you be embarrassed? I would be.
So let's talk about solutions. The city admits it is backlogged. They can't tow a vehicle if someone's living in it, but they certainly can come and tow a vehicle that has been stolen and stripped and left on the street.
Well, they took all 4 tires.
Chanel Smith is with the city's
If you
new
look
vehicle
inside,
enforcement
You
unit.
can see where they actually punched the ignition, stole all of that out, and that's how they were able to take the car.
The city launched the vehicle enforcement unit 2 months ago. Technicians like Chanel assigned to a specific area to focus on stolen and abandoned vehicles and tow them out.
And they had Taco Bell.
And they had Taco Bell while they were doing 2 stolen this morning, at least. Let's see how many others.
Oftentimes, it's neighbors reporting stolen or abandoned vehicles. So this unit handles those calls, and OPD now focuses solely on public safety.
There are cases where we actually see people dumping cars and try to reach OPD immediately, and hopefully that'll take one car robber off the street. But basically, we're just here for recovery. I feel if I came back 3 or 4 days later, it would be someone living in there.
And then you can't take it.
Then I can't take it because now it's become someone's home.
Share a couple of things.
And for community members like Ken Houston, it is a step in the right direction.
So this vehicle enforcement unit does get the VIN number and calls them. In most cases, the cars are trashed since they have been stripped of engines and catalytic converters and batteries.